Here we go. Okay.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I'm so sorry that we could not give an episode last week. I know everyone in the world missed us. Uh, like all 8 billion people message us being like, where's your Propspectiives? Like,
It literally crashed servers. It was amazing. I was like, this is how we do this. This is how you reach the world. Is what it is. So yeah.
we are the only thing getting the world through COVID-19.
I can't even like I want to riff off that, but I can't. It's so much hubris. It just sort of like it hits me hard, man. I'm Caleb. This here is Dan.
Hello, everyone. This time I figured I would say my name instead of just leaving you hanging. I'm like, is he going to introduce me?
Well, I know, but it was that brief pause where it also sounded like, oh, fuck, did he forget his name? Like his buddy's name? No, I did not. It was just, we're working the timing out. We're figuring
Just call me Caleb too.
That's right. Caleb 2 or the Dan 2. Yeah, so we did miss one last week. We are here this week, and we're going to talk about inclusivity in rugby. And just the episode name is A Place for All Types, which is true. Even the grossly unfit.
Yes, although I do draw the line at people who've committed genocide.
This is true. There is no place in rugby for that. 100%.
No.
Or Nazis, man. Fuck those guys. But
yes.
But generally very accepting sport.
No, I think one of the great things about rugby is that there really is a place for all body types in the sport. If you think of a lot of sports, soccer players generally tend to look the game the same. There's this actually graphic that has gone around for a while that has like body types for different sports. You have all these different body types, and I'm like, I have seen a person of every type of that on the rugby pitch. You have, the big beefy guys like me and Caleb. And then there's those like skinny little wingers who are like as thick as my pinky finger and who just are maddening for me to tackle. The short little scrum halves who just like dig in under their legs and get stomped on, just sort of shrug it off because they have Napoleon complexes. And what I think makes rugby so great is that American football has much of the same stuff where, you have the offensive linemen who are just like big, thick and don't move. And you have like, running backs who are a lot thinner and more agile. But rugby, you have that. And then sometimes as a fat guy, I'm still thrown out to the wing and I have to do the running back's job. And American football is like, okay, I do this one thing and I never change it up. And that sounds just so boring. I think that one of the great things about rugby is a place for all types, but you're not locked into that body type. And you're just, sometimes you're in a place, you're like, okay, this is what I'm doing. Let's go for it.
It's so true. I've picked up, I think I found the thing you were talking about, that little chart. I mean, everyone's kind of rough with this. I feel like, so they've got an athlete chart here for basketball, football, soccer, PGA golf, tennis, UFC, NASCAR, and average man. And I think there's more variety on a rugby pitch, to be honest.
I see, that's on the chart I'm talking about. And also, like, for football, you have to choose position. Like the one I'm thinking of has like power lifters and shot putters, and also swimmers, because swimmers are going to have a much more slender build. And you try to get like Michael Phelps doing powerlifting.
Here's the thing: I would love for Michael Phelps to lift him in a lineup, because his arm span is enormous, right? Like it's freakishly huge. So I can only imagine how much easier it would be just for him to just like just grab the ball in the line out. They wouldn't even have to cheat and throw it towards us. Like it'd be amazing. But yeah, like this chart is not. The height range on this chart, for instance, NASCAR, 168 pounds, 5'10", and that is a skinny little dude. That's crazy tiny.
You want as little weight as possible in that car so you can go faster.
It's true, right? Like, I mean, it's so true. It doesn't matter how good a driver you are. If you're our size, that car's not going much faster, right? So what was it? I think in drag racing, because I was big into cars a long time ago in drag racing. And little side note, I can definitely rebuild an engine with my eyes closed. Can't keep myself fit though, but it's a different machine. But I remember 100 pounds is worth a tenth in the quarter mile, give or take, if you're using, weight. I mean, it's a general rule for a street car, not like a pro comp, anything like that. But it was interesting, and I mean, the lightness of some wings, like I imagine, right? Like, what would it be like if we lost? I don't know, if we could just take off like off like a solid 60 pounds, man, or like 20 kilo, whatever. How much quicker we would be with that same musculature. It'd be astonishing.
And that's why, in terms of drag racing, Brooklyn Heights beat Silky Nutmeg Ganache.
True. You know what? I mean, I can't argue with that.
I mean, I also started rugby at like 270, and like so I've gained like 100 pounds since I started rugby. And yeah, I definitely noticed like my running times are not as fast as they were when I was 270 pounds.
It's true. No, like I joined again, mirroring exactly how our progression through this sport. I also think I was about 270, which was like the lightest I think I've been in a long time when I started. And yeah, like, we were fat. Like I was quick too. And it was crazy. I still remember poor Benoit in tackle practice. We had this drill where you would lie on your stomach, and then he would be out. It was like a 4-star point drill thing, and he'd be out on one side, and he'd run at you. You get up, you tackle, and then you run out to the outside. You drop down, and he runs, and then you get up and tackle. Anyways, I was like, it was amazing. I was just boom, 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 boom. I can't imagine doing that right now. I might get one.
We're also older. It's not just that we're fatter. It's we're also older.
I can live forever, man. Come on. But no, it's true. But I remember, here's the weird part is I remember, it's just going to be two fat dudes talking about how fast they were this whole episode. No, but I
inclusivity means we were once skinny, okay? Well, I wouldn't necessarily call 270 pounds skinny. But like, honestly, we could run. We could run, believe us.
We were quick. Actually, my first major rugby injury was at a sprint off at a practice because that stupid field that we were on had a dip like midfield and it caught my leg at full extension and I like just tore the shit out of my hamstring. And that was like the pivotal point where I became a less mobile prop and just sort of really got into my niche and scrums and just being like, I'm a slower dude now. But I remember what it was like being that fast. And it's crazy when, sometimes when you start doing like sprint exercises and stuff like that, you remember it. And it's weird disconnect when your body's not doing it. I don't know. But I feel like as long as I can remember it, I can get there again. But again, like you say, I am aging as well. So, we'll fight that battle too. One impossible feat at a time kind of thing.
My 5K is 45 minutes, which is
dude, that's not bad.
For someone who's 370 pounds, that's pretty good.
That's not bad. Yeah. Like, dude, seriously, for that amount of mass traveling 5 kilometers, that's not bad. I'm slowly working down my 5K as well. And it's
and I watched some of the backs who like run 10K and they're like 4 minutes a kilometer. And like, that's less than half my time over half that distance.
Yeah, I don't know. Weigh them down though. Let's throw some weight on those boys. But it's true. It's something to aspire to though. Honestly.
That does remind me of one of my most embarrassing injuries where I tried to show off in like the sprint off where people are holding you back. And so everyone was like, oh man, they hold back, they can't run. I'm like, listen, 2 people hold on to me and I will just sprint right through. Like it'll barely even slow me down. They're like, okay, Daniel. So the 2 people holding on to me, pulling back as hard as I can. And I just start sprinting and I'm speeding past everyone who just has 1 person on them. And then suddenly my hamstring goes pop.
Oh, I know that feeling. Yeah.
And it's just like,
land down. And you do that hobble run because you're like, I'm still winning. I'm still doing it.
I did still win. Yep. And then I couldn't do anything else for the practice or like for the next 2 weeks.
I remember we used to do a drill where we'd have a big circle and someone hops on your back and you run around. And I remember you carrying me. And that was like the one of the few times in my existence where I've had someone who was strong enough to actually run and carry me around, and I loved it. It was great. It was.
You're light as a feather.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But what was it? Oh yeah. Speaking of, so people hanging off you, right? I remember in one practice that was like kind of like a, oh my god, it's not a game obviously, but it's you practicing. It's a, what are they, scrimmage? So I can't believe I didn't remember that word. I was in a scrimmage and Glovey, Glovey glove box. It was our nine, and I love. He started a rugby club when he moved to Australia, right? Like it's not
Did he
the.
start it or did he join it?
No, I thought he
Not sure.
started it. The Perth
Started?
Rams.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he started it, or he got to go. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe I'm giving credit, more credit than's due. But fuck it. He was a good scrummy. So Glovey, glove box, was so named because he's tiny. He's a little dude. He could fit in the glove box. He was a little dude. Just a feisty fellow though. Like he was a good scrummy, eh? Like screaming at you, getting right in there. But on the scrimmage, I think he went to tackle me, and he wound up on my back, and I was running with the ball, and I didn't know he was on my back, and I just kept running. I didn't actually slow down at all. And it was so funny. Like he gets I stopped because someone else tackled me as well, and I get up, and he was just like, "You didn't even feel me, did you?" I was like, "No, man, I didn't." But again, that goes to people of all sizes, right? Like he was. I don't know how tall he was, man. He was tiny. He was like 5'4" or something, right? Like he was short.
Was he that tall?
I don't know if he was even that tall. That's just it. Great scrummy. Super tiny dude, but thick. He had muscle, but he was like short.
He was very fit. Like this is why he was a great scrum half. He was very fit. He was very agile. He's very quick. Like, and if I got him in tackle practice, we'd both be going, "Oh fuck!" Me because I knew I was like 99% of the time going to just eat dirt,
Yeah.
and him because of that 1% of the time when I tackle him, he's fucked.
It's so true, man. It's so true. But I mean, you can also what I do like about rugby, and if we're talking physicality of it, I do enjoy how you can evolve into a position. It usually goes one way. It usually goes towards prop as being your final retirement position typically. But you can migrate, and you don't even have to change your body type all that much to migrate, although there are benefits to doing so.
You can't really migrate to wing when you're 370 pounds unless everyone else on your team is like 400. It's like, I'm 370 pounds. I'm the lightest person on this rugby team.
Oh, my God. Yeah, but I mean, you still get big. Yeah, like the biggest wing in professional that I've seen is like, I can't remember his name, but I think it was like 240. But that was a terrifying size for a wing. 240 at speed but it's gotta be hell on the knees, right? Like they can't last that long for the knees. That's got to be tough.
I mean, most sprinters are not slender. Like marathon runners are the ones who are really slender and slim. Sprinters are not. And wings are not marathon runners. They are sprinters.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
Like
it's nothing but leg muscle, like big crazy legs and and sort of nothing up top, but that's fine.
I mean, for a wing, they got some. Even most sprinters, they got some muscle up there.
That's true.
Certainly it's mostly in the legs. You don't want too much muscle up there; it just weighs you down. But yeah, wings have a very traditional sprinter. If you look at like a lot of the fastest runners on earth, like Usain Bolt is not skinny.
No, it's true. It's so true. You're absolutely right.
Marathon runners are just like twigs.
Just the bare minimum to get you across.
Basically, because each pound of muscle is extra pound you have to carry. And when you're just like doing that explosive power, each pound of muscle gives you a lot more than a pound of force. But over the course of like a 2-hour marathon, like
it's not. They're diminishing returns on that one. Well, I remember, speaking of Usain Bolt, I was curious too, because his workout regimen, like his training, he would do the 100-meter sprints and stuff, but he would also do 400-meter sprints, which he hated. He said those were like the worst. You go higher, he's fine because he kind of goes into like an overdrive, kind of just like coasting kind of thing. But 400 apparently made you really work hard, and he said that really improved his 100-meter sort of sprint.
Yeah.
Which
So, Usain Bolt is about 220 pounds.
Okay.
So
It's so funny. I don't know, man. 220 seems light to me, but that's actually a pretty hefty
Yeah,
human.
like if you look at the people on our rugby team, that's like on the heavier side of it.
It's true. It's true. It's true. Like, and I mean, even at this chart too, a 6'1" NHL hockey player is 201 pounds, apparently. Yeah, the 6'2" football player, which of course it doesn't say which position, but at 6'2"
Yes.
and 246, what would that be? I don't even know what that would be. That's not big.
240 is I would say, like, you're looking someone probably has a little bit more speed, definitely not a linesman, but probably not someone who's like running directly into contact either. I'm not, my American football positions are not best, but probably someone.
I love, neither of us know that much about it, and we're still talking.
I mean, as a young guy who liked big guys, like watching the offensive linesman was enjoyable.
Fair enough.
Because there's very few places where I could see the body type I was attracted to on television. Because everyone's like, look at this guy, he's so attractive, and he does nothing for me.
That's true. Like it's yeah. So what was I saying? I was saying something about 240, man. That's not that big. I don't feel that's big. But again, I have no sense of scale for these sorts of things. Like I
mean, right now on the Ottawa Wolves, we've got like 3 props, and one is under 240.
Oof.
So like this is like the third biggest guy on the team. He is under 240 pounds. So like Usain Bolt would be like one of the heavier guys on the team.
Well, it's funny
he joined our rugby team.
Because the Beavers, they're my team. The Beavers is like I'm trying to think of. Like I've only played a few games with them because our season got canceled. But I'm trying to think of the last one. Like I was definitely huge. Like I was the biggest prop. They had some big locks, like some big dudes, like locks, like a good couple inches taller than us. So they'd be like 6'3", 6'4", and they were thick fellas. But I cannot remember for the life of me the other. No, the other prop wasn't that big. He wasn't that big. Good guy, but he was definitely not, our size. I want to say caliber, but that implies skill. But caliber in the sense of size, diameter. But yeah, no, it's true. Like it's he was probably maybe 250. I'd say on the smaller side. I feel, but again, you and me, we can't gauge being our supersized selves.
I'm pretty good at gauging other people's weights. I'm just very bad at having people guess my weight. Well, or very good if you like want to fool people. It's like, haha, you cannot guess my weight.
It's a mystery. But so that's the physical side. So we've got literally from, Niche, right? How big was Niche? Or Greg, or not Greg, George. Sorry, George. George was my favorite wing. Because George was like 5'1" and as light as can be. But when he tackled someone across the pitch, you heard the sound, and then he would just pop up like nothing had happened. Like it was very clearly a physics over, or like a technique over physics kind of thing with George.
Yeah, this thing, as like a big, strong guy, I am not afraid of people who are like 240, 250 pounds. If I'm coming against them, I know I can take them easy. I'm afraid of the little tiny guys who are just gonna like tap my foot and just take out my power, and I'm like, well, down I go.
Right, it's so much less predictable, right? The impact force, everything. You can't gauge it. Because you're like, I'm gonna fall in a really weird way because this little dude's tangled up in my legs, or like you said, tapping. You don't even feel them, and then suddenly you're flying through the air sideways, and then you're on the ground.
I remember so many times like people have like tried to like warn me about other teams' big guy, and then they end up just eating dirt when I run into them. I'm like, bitch, I am the biggest guy. And then this little like tiny little guy just like, oh yeah, I'll take him down. And then I was like, I swear I'm a force on the pitch. Believe me, please.
No, but they have to, right? At that size, they got to be technique, and they find clever little ways to get in. We're just super slow. Like I imagine it's like in Star Wars when you got those big AT-AT things just slowly lumbering. We think it's fast, but they're just like they're moving at such a faster everything than us. it becomes they got time to do like a little analysis and like in their vision. I imagine it looks like some sort of Terminator. There's a reticule, picking out our weak points as we lumber towards them. But yeah, so okay, so on the physical side, we've got people who are 5'1", 130 pounds tops, to us 370s. It's 6'1", 6'2", and then the locks who are just they're taller. They can be all over the place though, locks, right? Like they can be big beefy guys, but they could also be like super skinny but tall guys. And then,
usually locks are the strongest legs in the scrum.
True.
So generally you want someone who's a little bit thick. You need someone who has, more power and is not necessarily as fast. Because otherwise you just don't have the power. So yes, sometimes you will get very skinny locks, especially at amateur play. Although once you start getting to more professional level play, skinny locks are very rare. You're not going to get like big, thick locks like our size, because even in professional level, you'll occasionally get like a big, thick prop, and you don't find locks that size. But at the same time, you don't really find skinny locks. You need that extra weight to just give you that power.
Well, and I'm glad we don't have terribly thick locks, because lifting's not too bad because you got two guys going, but you can tell when it is a little shocking, like if you play with a team that you don't typically play with, because as a prop, I can say safely that we will always be accepted into just about any team, because they're like, yeah, we only have two, and one of them is a flanker that really shouldn't be there. So yeah, come on over and play with us. But
the myth, or not the myth, the legend of the non-training prop.
The non-training prop just sort of shows up.
Has tried to retire for 5 years, but just the team is like, look, man, I know you're trying to retire, but like we just need you this week.
It's the position that keeps on giving, man. Like you will never, if you start as a prop, you will play the same glorious game of rugby for years and years and years. It's amazing.
Although, some American teams that I've been like have told me like, we've got all forwards, we've got like 5 props and no backs. I'm like, what?
That's true. It's true. Yeah. Like there are every once in a while you'll be like, okay, that's a big pack. You guys are sort of stationary. Okay. Not the most mobile team, but yeah, it's but lifting a heavy lock when it surprises you how heavy they are, if you're on a team and you're just sort of floating in, that's rough on the wrists, like that's where you're trying to lift the traditional way, and then your hands slip because there's too much weight and you just definitely misgauged, and then suddenly you're grabbing shorts and you're like, I'm sorry, this is how I'm doing it because you're way heavier than I thought you'd be. It's surprising.
Yeah. I especially hate when because usually on like a guy with thick legs, you have that little notch in their thigh where just the muscle like tapers in and goes in.
Yep.
Now you can just get right underneath the muscle and get a good grip. And then some guys, their legs are just like, nope, they're just like big, thick, straight legs, too thick for you to get a really good grip. Your hands are just like wide open on their legs. And you're like, this is not going to work. There is no possible way in which I'm going to lift you from your legs.
Yeah, it's like trying to grab like a 7-inch pole. Open-handed and lift it up, and you're praying the guy in the back because you're like, okay, well maybe if I, physics, if I just apply pressure, the guy in the back lifting will also apply equal pressure, and we'll be able to, equalize and lift.
And if you've got the time to like practice it with the people involved, you can usually get there. But sometimes when it's just, you're just coming in, you don't know the guy, you don't know the jumper, you're just like, okay, I'm just grabbing shorts. This is the way it's going to be. Although that's part of the reason why I like being a backlifter is because everyone's got a butt. Even like this, the whitest guy has got a butt. And it's like, okay, just get in there, get my fingers right into that crack, lift him up. Being a backlifter is so much easier.
And I'm predominantly a front lifter, and it's always dicey because you're lucky if you get 2 lifts before a game to just practice. They're like, yeah, forwards, come over here. And you're like, pack in and let's see you in a scrum, and you like loosely bind and okay, that's fine, and then you go and you practice 2 line out calls, and they're like whatever they're using, like Tokyo 93 64 Rubenfeld, and you're like, I don't know what these are, and I'm just gonna have to watch this guy. And then like you're lucky if you get 2 good lifts out of that practice session before the game
My
starts.
my favorite story about that is a friend of mine was playing rugby in where was it? It was in the Philippines, and there were only 2 people on the pitch that spoke English, and
Oh,
he was one of them. And he did not know the team's calls, but so one of his teammates, the other guy who spoke English, would just like listen to the call, tell him in English, "Here's what's happening," and then he'd be like, "Okay."
oh my God, amazing, amazing. That'd be wild. Like, how do you even, right? Like, you can't even, if you have no idea about the language, you can't even try and mimic sounds. Like, you just don't even know. You're just watching
Yeah.
the guy's knees in front of you and being like, okay, I'm gonna try this. Let's just give it a shot. And then they don't try to jump, and you like just end up like jamming your thumbs into their sternum as they look at you awkwardly. But okay, so that's I think we've covered the physicality of it
Oh,
pretty
there's
well.
actually one talking point that I wanted to before we move over to like the
Yes.
more
Please go.
non-physical inclusivity. Um, I talked to I'm blanking on his name now. I didn't write down his name. Like conversation in Manchester with that guy who's deaf. Thank you myself for not writing down his name. Ben something, is it Ben Cohen? Or am I just I don't know. Anyways, I should actually look this up.
Okay.
Like we should pause the recording now so that people don't have to be like,
Nope,
I'm
it's okay.
Googling this person I actually talked to.
Ben Cohen,
Yes, Ben
Manchester.
Cohen. It is Ben Cohen. Okay, I
Oh,
was right and just doubting myself. Anyway, so Ben Cohen is deaf, and we had 2 players on our rugby team who are also deaf.
oh wow.
Uh, so this was in 2012, and I'm like, okay, so like, how do you play rugby when you're deaf? It's a game so much about communication. He said that one of the great things about having a team is that with rugby, as long as everyone's communicating and you're communicating, they can react to what you're doing. So if you're deaf, you can actually just constantly narrate what you're doing. And even though you can't hear what other people are doing, they can immediately react to it and make sure they're all in the right position for
That's
it.
fair. Yeah, that's really cool, actually. What a neat way to overcome that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, I went to that and I talked to my teammates about that, and that was really cool. And then a lot of people were really upset because they have a crush on Ben Cohen. I do not find him attractive at all. Like, you talked to Ben Cohen for like 10 minutes. I'm like, yeah, because like he's deaf and that was relevant. Like, but he's so hot. I'm like,
Ben Cohen, rugby union. I mean, he's like I'm looking him up right now. That's an attractive, but that is a very symmetrical face. If we even go with just the basic, that's a broad, symmetrical looking fella there. I don't know, man. He's a pretty attractive cat, sure.
I mean, a lot of people are very attracted to him. And this is why everyone was so mad at me, because I had a conversation with him for 10 minutes when everyone else was drooling over him, and I had zero interest in him whatsoever.
Here's the problem. Here's the problem. 6'2", 227 pounds. Guy's a beanpole. Guy's not your
Basically,
type,
I mean,
and that's fair. That's fair.
I mean, he plays wing. I do not sleep with backs.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. He looks like a nice guy, though. You know what? He looks like a real nice dude.
He was really sweet to talk to, and everyone who's met him says he's really sweet. He is like super straight, but adores all his gay fans, and like his publicist will like send out thirst photos to his gay fans.
Yeah, it does say in his Wikipedia he's an activist, and that's cool, man. You see, that's just it. Like, he's just a good dude. I love it. I love it. Just a good dude. That's cool. Sorry,
yeah.
but you know what? The deaf aspect is a really interesting part. Like calls and everything. Eh? Things to think about. Oh, very cool. Anyways, sorry,
Now
I
you
realize
can move
on a
on.
podcast I can't just like quietly contemplate something. It's dead air.
If you want to quietly contemplate something, just like get me to start talking. I can go off for like a whole bunch of stories.
That's right. I'll just wistfully look into the distance and think about things. Not the time, Caleb. Now is the time for just talking at stuff.
We have to entertain people.
That is the name of the game. So fair enough, and that's a great point for What we were talking about.
So about inclusivity of body types,
Let's
and one of
get
those
back.
types is people who are deaf. Some it'd be a lot difficult to play rugby if you were perhaps blind, but there's also wheelchair rugby, which
Yeah, that
is
is super
super
cool,
cool
actually.
and super fun. It definitely takes some aspects of rugby, but wheelchair rugby was also a way to make it more friendly because it used to be called murder ball. uh,
Oh, no way. No way. I had no idea. Really?
yeah. So so
Wow.
murder ball turned into uh, wheelchair rugby because they wanted to seem a little bit more appropriate.
Sorry.
And so while it definitely has a lot of similarities to rugby in the way it scores and everything like that, and it definitely took a lot of inspiration from it, uh, they named it that for yes,
Huh.
for not being called murder ball.
Oh my goodness. Murder ball. I had no idea. I had no idea. That's wild. So moving along. Sorry, I'm just I'm down quite a bit of wine now. People find it weird that I'd like to drink. I'm a connoisseur of the wine. But yeah, so keeping on track then, and not getting distracted. Let's talk inclusivity. So we've covered the physical aspect. Mentally, though, rugby's been pretty good uh, with inclusivity, given that most every body type is accepted. What do you think about the psychological, the societal inclusion that rugby can provide? What are your thoughts on that?
I Well, I mean, I think in the first episode I talked about my story about getting into rugby
Hmm.
and how very I was very much disinvited from the high school rugby team
Right.
because both being gay and teaching people actual sex ed when the rugby coach was a very socially conservative person who believed that the only answer was abstinence. Uh, and then I didn't really do any team sports. I stopped doing team sports when I was 13, as sort of like, yep, I'm gay. Uh, and I grew up in a sort of not exactly rural, but like very like line between rural and suburban.
Right.
And so definitely not fitting in
Fair
in any sort of way. I'm feeling very isolated. I just sort of dropped all team sports at the same time, um, and didn't really do any until I heard about Ottawa's gay rugby team, and like I want to join that. And so it's been really fantastic. I feel a lot. I feel very comfortable. I feel one of the great things about rugby and having sort of inclusive teams is that there are teams that are very much designed to get people in who don't have any experience,
Right.
who just want to play. A lot of the problems with contact sports is it's very difficult to get into them as an adult who has no skill in them. And this is actually true for a lot of sports. Like I have several friends who have never really played any sports before, and now they're an adult, and it's like, oh, I have to actually do fitness. I don't like going to the gym. I
Right.
just want to have fun, like doing stuff. But they're petrified of joining a sport because they don't, they've never done it before. They're going to be against people who played it as kids, adults, teenagers, and just like they spent their whole life playing rugby. Um, and the fact that it was a gay rugby team where like no one had any experience coming in really also took that part of it out of it. So the fact that I'd ditched team sports over my sexuality and then didn't really have any practice with them since I'd been 13, uh, joining a gay team, and it's now an inclusive team very specifically, um, was really good for that. And I think that it also helped people who may not who may be 100% heterosexual. One of the first members of the Ottawa Wolves was very straight, but he had around age 13 ditched all team sports and only did individual sports, and he was super athletic, like one of the fittest people I had ever met. Did like decathlons and won, but was like never joined team sport from the age of 13 until like I'm not sure how old he was, like 27 or so. joined a gay rugby team, despite being straight. And for like, he was a really sweet guy, and a lot of us were sort of like really glad he was on the team, but we're also kind of confused about why he had never done team sports for like 14 years and then joined us. And then we found out.
Okay.
And I think it's actually a really positive story. So he, at 13, started figuring out his sexuality.
Okay.
And while he was 100% straight, he was super submissive sexually. And, you know, in a traditional heterosexual environment, that is not accepted. You know, if you're a man, you're not really a real man if you're submissive. And so he just dropped it all, and then joined a gay team, because if he's like, man, I just want to be like tied up and beaten, like have teams like, me too, sister.
Exactly. You've got people who just understand that perspective, I guess, right?
Yeah, and who don't think any less of him for being a submissive, for wanting to be dominated, who can actually like share stories about being dominated. For him, like, it was super freeing that he could actually share this part of himself and bond with people over it instead of being looked down upon for it. We found out actually at one of our jockstrap auctions, when like there was a woman there, and then like she started getting quite down with him, and then he was getting very excited. We're like, oh,
hey,
now everything is clicking.
There you go, buddy. Everybody has a place. No, and it's true. And like that sort of like, yeah, well, and it probably helped him break free of a lot of that toxic masculinity bullshit stuff that happens, right? You know, to play like rugby, which is admittedly a seemingly very masculine sport. Or at least aggressive, because you know what? Honestly, like I've seen the women's sides play, and I prefer to watch women's rugby because it is so tenacious and insane to watch, right? Like, it's wild, and I would argue it's at times way more physical and than men's rugby in some, like way more just wild. Like, it's so fast, it's so brutal. Because they can just move a little quicker too, right? Like, but there's a mental aspect too. But anyways, that's a whole other discussion. But anyway, sorry, continue.
I know that's a lot of it, and so I think that the fact that there are so many inclusive and gay clubs not only helps people who, you know, found out they were gay and really never felt welcome in team sports, also helps people who just didn't fit into the you know, general heterosexual mold. And it's been fantastic to really play it and also be in such a welcoming environment. Pretty much everyone in the URU has been super inclusive and accepting. There was one game against Napanee where things did not get so inclusive.
It happens. It happens, though.
There were definitely some, you know, like, bundle of sticks thrown. If you catch
really?
my meaning.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's crazy. Okay. All right. Fair enough.
Yeah. And so there's definitely been that definitely happened. But for the most part, it really opened us up. So, and a lot of people who you know, decide they no longer wanted to play with the Wolves, and after joining the Wolves and not playing team sports for a long time, felt really comfortable going to other teams. And, you know, whatever their reasons for leaving the Wolves, I think it's fantastic that the Wolves help them feel more comfortable just going into whatever situation, joining another team that fit their personality better, that fit what they needed better. And I think that is also a success story of the Wolves.
No, that's very true. You know, you're absolutely right. Like, it's one thing to feel accepted, and then sometimes a team just doesn't quite fit anymore, or whatever. You know, like, humans are complex creatures. I get that. So, and rugby's a complex game. It kind of meshes nicely.
And even the best team is going to have people on it who cause drama, and sometimes that means you need to leave.
Ain't that the truth? And, you know, and so, yeah, and what I found too is, like, in you know, in playing with the Wolves, but also in exploring other teams in the EORU and specifically, but I mean, I've also played with, you know, a bunch of other teams. Like when we went to Amsterdam, everyone was so nice. But like for the Beavers, for instance, who I love these guys. Like I love their ethos. I love the way they play. Much faster than I have to do some work, is what I'm saying, to get up to their level of play. But as far as sort of a personality of a team, they're great. They're very accepting, and they just the attitude is really nice and pleasant, and it's nice to jump. It's nice to know, how do I put this? It's nice to know that the Wolves are very, very accepting, and that's fantastic.
Mhm.
It's also nice to know that in exploring other teams in the league, I've also found that there are other teams that are also just as accepting.
Mhm.
The Beavers is one of them. The Beavers is a fantastic team for just people of all types. That's not to disparage anyone else. The Blues are all right. The Blues, though, are fucking intense. I tell you right now, those boys are out there to win. Not that the Beavers aren't, and not that the Wolves aren't, but that's a whole different that's a different level.
I mean, every time we play a league game, I have a very specific mindset because, the Wolves have, we have won some league games, but only with very odd circumstances. And so
I laughed because I was part of one of those. I remember that, and I was, yeah.
And so, I mean, I definitely go in. I go in with the mindset, I am here to improve myself, to play in a way that I will be proud of. And so, like, I'm going to, like, not miss tackles when I run.
Right.
I'm going to smash through this many people. I really set goals outside of the scoreboard about things that I can control and about me progressing my game. And so, and I think that's important to do if you're on a team that is generally a losing team. Because I certainly
they got
like
heart, man. They got heart. It's cool.
Rugby is such a team sport that, because really I think one of the points of the Wolves is to develop players, not necessarily to win. We want to make sure everyone gets playing time, whether they're our best player or our worst. Why? Because that, in the end, I think is better for growing the team and for the goals of the Wolves. And so that does mean that, even if we played our best players exclusively, still probably wouldn't win much in the way of league games.
That's all right. That's okay. No, but you know what? That's a fair point. Like the Wolves specifically, as within the broader spectrum of the EURU in our area, is a great feeder entry team, because I'm glad I started with them. It allowed me to get like a ton of playing time, like just a ton, and learned quite a bit, and then it allowed me to spread out and head out to other teams. But not not a lot of winning, but a lot of heart, man. It was always a good time. I was cool with not winning every game, though, or any game. No, we won.
We won Beaver Bowl.
We did. I'm just teasing. No, and Beaver Bowl is actually one of my most cherished memories. I love Beaver Bowls. Those are such a great tournament. Down in Toronto, for anyone who doesn't know, it's IGR, and it's hosted by the Muddy York. And oh my God, such amazing people, dude! Such amazing people. I loved it. It was such a good time, and I miss that this year. I know you say it might happen. It's not going to happen, buddy. It's just not safe.
I mean, certainly we're not going to get any American teams because we are not opening up that American border anytime soon.
No. No.
But Ontario's going to stage 3, where we're going to be able to actually eat inside restaurants. I'm probably not going to do that yet.
Me either, man. I saw that today, but
Ottawa is getting 5 cases a day on average, which is low, but it's sort of I am still going to be, still wearing my mask and not anytime I'm inside, and you can't eat and wear your mask at the same time.
It's true. You cannot shovel down sushi and keep your mask at the same time.
Which is sad because sushi is one of the things I miss the most. All you can eat sushi, just sitting there, just I want this, and this, bring it to me. Oh, and hot pot. Oh my God, and hot pot. I want sushi and hot pot.
Yeah. No, 100%. I miss that so much. But yeah, so anyways, so Back on top, we are
Sorry, this is hey, all you can eat food is definitely a prop issue.
Oh my god. But yeah, like so yeah, like I dearly missed the Beaver Bowl tournament in Toronto. Montreal was a nice one, but it was too hot. I was I was oh the Montreal Beaver Bowl. Okay, so here's the thing about the Montreal Beaver Bowl. It gave me what I think is one of my most favorite and cherished rugby memories is when Big Phil from Philly set up the most amazing try ever for me. So he's a big prop. I'm a big prop. And just before everything happened, he was like, we gotta find an episode where I think we have one where I'll describe this in detail and it's flowery glory. But it was one of the most amazing tries ever, and it's one of my favorite memories. Anyways, it was beautiful. But that tournament was so hot, and the place where we were staying was like a res for UCAM, and it was a nice building, but I was literally on the concrete floor the night the in between days, right? And so the second day of the tournament's always the hardest. But in between, I was literally just naked on the floor on this concrete floor, just hollering about how hot it was because it wasn't air conditioning. The building wasn't fucking air conditioning, man. Like, I was just beside myself in a sweaty mess on the floor. Definitely did not play very well. But at the same time, I still fucking love that Beaver Bowl.
That is, I think, the only Beaver Bowl I missed, and I missed that one because I was injured.
That's all right, man.
And then I was still gonna go, and then like one of my teammates was like, I can go last minute, but I didn't register, and it's too late to register. I'm like, you know what? You can have my room, you can have my registration.
Yeah.
Go and play. And then of course, like he gets there, and they're like, oh, we don't have a room for you because we messed up the rooming.
I remember you want a dicey situation. Let's have 70 rugby players crammed into a non-air conditioned fucking UCAM res, and no one's got rooms. That's tough. And it was late at night too, right? Like people rolled in late for that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that was one of the big issues from what I understand. I mean, I'm not one of the organizers, is that they really were the people who were at the front desk did not have the documents that were given about who specifically was getting what. And so they were just giving rooms to the first people who arrived, whether they had, like, if they had booked a room with 4 other people, each one would get their own separate room because they didn't realize that, hey, you know, I put these people into a room together. And so then the organizers were like, got there, and people were like, we don't have rooms. Like, what? But we communicated to them, made sure. They went to the front desk. The front desk was like, oh yeah, we gave each person who came their own room until we ran out. And then it's like, what?
10 p.m. fucking 36 degrees centigrade. So I don't know, 110 fucking whatever's Fahrenheit's. And yeah, like people just didn't know where. 10 at night, the tournament's the day after. You're not finding it. Oh man, and all the hotels were of course picked up because it was some other event was happening. It was crazy. The Toronto ones, I mean, you know what? Bless their hearts for trying so hard. I still love the Montreal one, but the Toronto ones will always be in my heart because, you know, it's just fucking nice.
I mean, from what I understand, the shit show with the housing and accommodations was not really their fault. It was the actual residents that dropped the ball by not looking at the document and just giving out key cards to everyone. And so, you know, there were people there who like booked a room with 4 other people and then just got their own solo room, and they were loving it.
Yeah, yeah, I guess, yeah. Oh man, but yeah, so yeah. The inclusive tournaments were fun. Like, what did you think of Amsterdam? That was the last Bingham Cup before, you know, this one got postponed because it was supposed to be in Ottawa, actually.
Yes. And it still will be in 2 years.
It still will be. I know. You notice I didn't say canceled. I said postponed. I was super duper looking forward to it as a resident of Ottawa. I don't have to book a hotel, nothing, man. It was going to be great. But I get it. It's, you know, it's a pandemic. But how did you? So I mean, Bingham Cup is a big thing. It happens every 2 years, give or take. You know, pandemics, and it's hosted all over the world.
Yes, I've been to 5 of them.
Yeah, you've been to 5 of them. So which countries were they?
So 2010 was Minneapolis. I started playing in 2008, but I was not registered in time to go to Dublin. So because 2008 Dublin, so I missed that one. because I joined the team in like, I think like June, and it was like, and there's the Bingham Cup happening in 2 weeks, and you can't like,
you're not gonna
want to go in 2 weeks. Hey, I know you've never actually played a game of rugby before, but
That's a great start though, man. That's wild. That'd be crazy.
I would. I mean, I've never been to Ireland, so part of me wishes like somehow I could manage it. But like, I was a 1-year contractor who did not like have much in the way of vacation time at that time, because I just started my job. So like, there was no way I could have swung it. But yeah, 2010 was Minneapolis in the United States. 2012 was Manchester in the UK. 2014 was Sydney, Australia.
Right.
2016 was Nashville, the United States. 2018 was Amsterdam, and those are the ones I've been to.
Wow, that's wild, man. I've seen videos of and I could identify you with the pink hair from the Australian one, and I know the Nashville one was crazy hot. And actually,
it was, although it was actually hotter in Ottawa than it was in Nashville that week.
It's true. Ottawa is particularly warm, and that was one of the things I think I had mentioned on like some of the forums to some of the people who were coming in. I'm like, hey guys, just so you know, like last week, even here, like a few days ago or whatever, even like we're in a heat wave with the Humidex. It was like 43 or something, which again is up in the hundreds of the Fahrenheits. So it gets crazy hot here. But even Amsterdam had a heat wave when we were down there, eh? Like it was so warm. Oh my God. It was
Well, and then when you have the opposite, you have like when we were in Manchester, and it was like 4 degrees and pouring rain, which was actually our best game because all the other teams did not know how to handle the cold.
right.
They were like, okay, just keep running to keep warm, and we're like,
tire yourself
amateurs.
Yeah.
Like, while you're running, you keep warm, then you have to stop at some point, and you're just cold. Your muscles seize up. Whereas the Canadians, we just got into a giant huddle. We were like penguins, trying to funnel people from the outside into the middle and then back to the outside. So you just like, okay, circling around. And then we were so warm for that game because the game got delayed because there was a guy who had a brain aneurysm, I think, on the other pitch. He's
shit.
okay. He was fine. But yeah, like he like just suddenly like he was just like running and then suddenly like collapsed.
Oh my God.
And so like the ambulance came out of the pitch, and so our game was delayed by like 30 minutes in 4-degree pouring rain. It's yeah. We really won that game.
When it gets cold, man, when it gets cold in tournaments, that's the like hot. Okay, like in Amsterdam, I remember, especially for the old boys games, which I now qualify for. There were a couple of ambulances called, but I remember when it gets cold, that's when the real division starts because, man, yeah, your muscles seize right the fuck up. You end up pulling stuff just walking. Do you remember Robin Cup? So we had this tournament, which I loved. It was great. It was like a warm up to the season. It was in March. So we're talking about, so here's Ottawa's extremes, right? In August, September, it's up in the hundreds or 36, 37. The ground is rock hard unless it pours and lightning happens. And then it's just like swampy water, standing water. Or you have it in March where it is still winter for all intents and purposes. This was a warm March, I remember, for Robin Cup, and I loved it. Kareem set it up, and it was a great tournament. It was, again, between mainly the Beaver Bowl people, right? So Toronto, Montreal, us. And but it was so muddy and cold. When you talk about people huddling together, I think there's a photo of like me in the center and like the entire team huddled around to keep warm. And it was the funniest thing. But man, yeah, it got super cold and wet, and we were just like, it was delayed. An ambulance got stuck on the pitch because they were foolish enough to drive on when that guy broke his leg or whatever.
I remember that.
Yeah, there's still divots in the field because my son goes for tournaments out in that rugby pitch, and there are still divots in the field where the ambulance got stuck. It was wild. It was wild. But again, it's the tournaments I find are really great as far as inclusivity goes, to try and bring this back to some sort of cohesion of an episode. It's really nice to meet people of all walks of life, and all orientations and everything, and you're there for this one reason, is to get exhausted and beat the crap out of each other and still be friends afterwards, for the most part, and buy yourself some drinks and generally abuse your bodies while feigning exercise. Like, I really love it. I think that's such a unique aspect to the game. And I grew up so in Ontario and Quebec, and so it's hockey kids, right? And hockey kids, and you can tell it's so funny. You can tell hockey people, when they come to a rugby team, they are a slightly different people. They got that intensity. They got that, that locker room intensity. Whereas, purely rugby, but like me too, like I did not play any organized sports. I was, like I said earlier in the episode, I was more of a car guy, a greaser guy, fixing up cars, working on carburetors and shit. I did not care for team sports until very much later in my life, around 27, 28. But you can tell the guys who grew up with the hockey just chirping, and it's a different attitude than the people who just sort of learned rugby as sort of their main sport. And that happens a lot with rugby. People just sort of float in, and they've not really played much other team sports, and they pick like the most complicated one. But it's also the most accepting, right? And I think there's a lesson there. There's some really neat sort of camaraderie. Speaking of camaraderie, and I know I'm going on and on and on, but
hey,
I just got my merch. I just got my quarantine chuggers for qualified ruggers merch from Paladin Sports. I talk like they're a sponsor. They're not sponsored. But you know what's amazing is they listened to Prop Stand, and they've made shorts with pockets for snacks.
Oh my god,
dude!
Like, I need this, because like 20 minutes into a rugby game, I was like, fuck, I need to eat something.
Fuck yeah, man. No more trying to coil up a tiny Twizzler in the mouthguard pocket that's inside my shorts. I can just have snacks in my shorts, man. But that was super cool. So they're floating that sort of thing. But I mean, you know what? I gotta say, I had to wait. I tracked it because a lot of people. It's so funny, man, on this website. Again, Facebook. It's so funny. They're like, where is it? And there's a whole joke about it going to North Korea and this and that. But I literally, with bated breath, tracked it across, from California to, where it landed in the States to when it got to me. I was like, oh, it's in this city now. And, oh, it's in this city. So it's nice to finally have it. And it looks quite sharp. I'm glad I went for the 4X. I gotta say, the 4X fits quite nicely. And I got the tank top too, which is great. My shoulders are too hairy right now. I think I gotta groom something before I rock the tank top. I get one of those big back, this looks like a fucking squeegee, so I can shave my back. But as far as camaraderie goes, it's nice that we've got people who in times like these, teams will organize workouts online on Zoom. You've got web or Facebook sites that have bringing people together for rugby. It's just really neat to see that whole community come together, man. Like, it's pretty cool. It's definitely not, I don't know, actually, I have no idea, but I don't think other sports do it. I'm just gonna say it. I don't think other sports fucking know anything about camaraderie. Take that, other sports who will never hear this.
I mean, there's definitely a culture of camaraderie in rugby. The third half is a very much a sort of like cultural touchstone in a way that, like, I played a lot of hockey and baseball and soccer as a kid, and like you play against the other team. You did not know anyone on the other team. You did not know their names. You might have like an insulting nickname for them, but like that's it. And then you wouldn't even know what their name is, and you'd never see them outside of like on the playing field.
Right.
And then you go and you do something with your team. And certainly, like I've heard stories of like tournaments where that doesn't happen for a lot of these things, and like but I know that there's definitely more of that, especially in sort of recreational sports as well. As an adult, I know a lot of people who've done much more recreational soccer where it's just like a beer league and everyone does go to the bar together afterwards.
Right.
I think one of the big things about rugby is that it's much more of a universal thing.
Yes.
where it's like, everyone goes, you find the people you played against, you buy them a beer, or if they're a little more frou-frou, sangria or cocktail. We're
Dude,
not here to
so
judge.
good.
We're here to drink and swap stories about how we hit each other.
I will drink every fucking fruity drink in that place, man. You give me a sangria, you give me a margarita. I'll take a Caesar, even though that will give me heartburn. I will I'll drink beer, but dude, those fruity drinks are fantastic. They taste delicious.
I mean, I think beer is disgusting. I know we just like lost half our listeners right now.
I know.
Just people are like, that's it, I'm out.
Dude, I'm literally drinking like, a liter of Chardonnay, right? Because I'm fancy like that. But no, it's true, man. Like, beer makes me fucking bloaty. Whatever. You don't want to see me all farty and gassy. You want to see me partying.
Exactly. I mean, I'm also weirdo. I'm the guy who thinks, straight vodka tastes delicious.
Ooh,
One of my favorite drinks is just like vodka and lemon juice, and delicious.
That is a pretty good drink. That is a pretty good drink. Well, I remember too, also we had a kangaroo court for a tournament, for a women's tournament. I went, my partner, she was part of the tournament, and it was down in Fredericton. And that's one of my favorite memories too, actually. It was a kangaroo court afterwards, and we had everyone together. And I think I was the judge, and we had like a big bottle of Bullet bourbon, and I felt, as far as, I didn't want to just be feeding drinks to people. And we'll touch on kangaroo courts in another episode. I think we should touch on kangaroo courts in the third half episode, which makes sense to me. But I also would take a drink every time one of them took a drink. So I was, we finished that bottle easy. And it wasn't beer. And I wasn't, you know what? I wasn't gassy, Dan. I wasn't fucking gassy. Didn't make me bloated. We definitely got kicked out of that dorm, but I wasn't bloated. God damn it.
Propspectiives, taking a stand on the hard issues. Beer makes you bloated.
Beer makes you gassy and bloated. Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, that's cool. You know what? I think we've got a good sort of grasp on that. We'll always touch like all of these topics. They overlap always. But I think
we can't stay on topic, as you can see.
Well, I think I did pretty good, but I'm clearly, between the two of us, I'm the worst at getting distracted by things flying by. But
although to be fair to you, sometimes the things flying by are me changing the topic.
That's so true. That's so true. But I think this is good. This was good. I think we're gonna end it, and next week we're doing the pregame dump is the name of the episode,
which I have a strong moral objection to. It is called the Lucky Poop.
It's true.
Not the pregame dump. It is the Lucky Poop, and this is the hill I will die on.
It's true, and I feel like I've said like in a past episode that I will look at that. We've got a Google Doc of sort of talking points at the episode name, and I see Dan's cursor just clicked on the pregame dump. You can change it, man. It's okay. I think I said that we would. There we go. Is he highlighting it? And there we go. The lucky poo. There we go. Perfect. Okay, so next, I will amend what I just said. The next episode is the lucky poo. Thank you so much, Dan. Thank you, everybody. I will say goodbye.
Goodbye, everyone. It's always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure. And,
I hope you like Caleb's voice half as much as I do, because if you do, you'll listen to this podcast like 4 times.
That's so sweet. I also love my voice and will listen to it many times. But thank you, Dan. I love listening to you. I love these little chats. They energize me. I miss rugby. I miss playing with you, buddy. We're going. What is it? Series 3 or Sector 3 or what is it called when Ontario is now? We're in
Phase 3.
Phase 3, which isn't rugby. I was talking because I help coach. Sometimes inconsistently I help coach lower league games and stuff, and we're talking about how, look at this, I'm just starting another fucking episode. I was ending it and we were good. Anyways, whatever. Fucking Phase 3, there's still no contact, there's still no scrums. It's gonna be touch rugby, and that's ridiculous. If you're a prop, touch rugby, I mean, sure, it's exercise, but fuck it.
It teaches bad habits. I started
It's
playing
not,
a lot of
yeah.
touch rugby without playing real rugby. And then I got into real rugby and they're like, why are you doing that? I'm like, that's what I always do in touch rugby. It's like, no, you never do that. I'm like, but that's what I've been taught to do.
Dude, it's an entirely different game, and I understand the cardio aspect of it, and it's good, but it is not the same thing, and you learn bad habits. So that's it. That's what I'm ending this on.
Bad habits.
All right, guys. Have a good night. Thank you so much. See you later.
Stay safe.
Stay safe.